Hi there everybody, this is David, and recently I came in and put out a video about 7 RPGs that just get worse. And that kind of seemed to be like a hot topic for y'all, so I thought that it might be fun to kind of revisit it and talk about 7 more RPGs that start off really great and strong, and then they just end up dragging ass by the end and you just want them over with. And I definitely do think that's worth the sub as you come and you join a party and you level on up with me. Thank you so much for your sub, your like, and your hype. It helps me out a ton. And now let's go ahead and get started going over some RPG classics that just kind of like peter out by the end. First up, the Final Fantasy Legend. I'm a huge fan of the Final Fantasy Legend series. In fact, they're some of my favorite saga games of all time. But here you can definitely tell that they were running out of ideas towards the end of the game. I mean, it really does consist of 4 different elementally themed worlds with a tower connecting them all. And you do begin in the world of Continent, which is just chock full of dungeons and towns and story and neat little areas. After that, you move on to the world of Water, which is filled to the brim with islands and caves connecting them all, and a bunch of towns too, and you can eventually even get like a little boat to sail around in. 4 more floors later up the tower, and you'll arrive in the world of Sky, a picturesque place of clouds, and you get a cool airship too to soar around. All of these worlds are great until you reach the 4th world, the world of Ruins, and that place just sucks. Essentially, it's like a post-apocalyptic ruined cityscape that's been decimated by constant monster attacks, and you really can't even like wander around the overworld because you yourself are constantly attacked by an invincible super boss who just decimates your party. So you have to run into the underground and use tunnels to get around. The whole place is just super obnoxious, mazy as anything, and you can really tell that the developers like phoned it in for this world. As great as the first 3 worlds are, it really is a shame what happened in the 4th, because by the time that you get here, all you want to do is end up making a mad dash to the top and slice God in half with a chainsaw. Number 2, Tales of Destiny. This year was the first Tales game released in America, and as such, it was my introduction to the series. Even though I do remember hearing about Tales of Phantasia on the SNES whenever they reviewed it in the Nintendo Power. But I guess I just never made that connection that Tales of Destiny was part of that series, so I picked it up by itself and I absolutely fell in love with it. I had never seen anything before like the combat or the food system or even the character development. And the world was just so all-encompassing and full of life, not to mention the lively cast of characters that you just can't help but love. I was having a great time with it until about like the 40 or so hour mark whenever you enter the Aether Spheres, and this could quite possibly be the most poorly designed dungeon in the history of RPGs. On paper, I guess it sounds pretty cool. Essentially, it's the remnants of a shell that once encased the planet, but it's been shattered, and now only the fragments remain. Like, that's neat and everything, but what's not neat is having to actually traverse it, because there's nothing but teleporters and elevators, and it's mazy as anything, and the worst part of it, though, is that there's no obvious destination. You're not really sure, where you're supposed to go or what you're supposed to do, so you're just, running around with a chicken with your head cut off, getting into a random battle every 5 seconds, and while hoping and praying that the next elevator will lead you on to the end. But this here is only the beginning of the horrible dungeons that are to come, because from here on out, it's just one god-awful dungeon after the next. Number 3, Wild Arms 3. I love this series. Please don't come at me with torches and pitchforks because it really is one of my favorites of all time. I love the Wild West theme, I love the crest magic, the guardians, the characters, the scenario system. Hell, I even love the hex battle system in the later titles. But what I don't love is whenever a title is long just for the sake of being long. And unfortunately, Wild Arms 3 suffers from this ailment. In its defense though, a lot of PS2 RPGs were just kind of long for the sake of being long, but I do think that it's the most egregious here. At first, during the scenario split, and during the first 20 or so hours, the game is still novel. The battles go by at a quick enough pace, and the dungeons aren't too long and intimidating. But after about the 50-hour mark, it just drags. Everybody having to run all over the place during the random encounters gets real old, real fast. The dungeons have just ballooned in size, and even the world itself is a chore because, number 1, it's absolutely massive, and number 2, It's just a giant desert where everything looks exactly the same. And I think that it's just kind of like a victim of its own monotony. There's something to be said for telling a tight story without a whole lot of bloat. And just like the other games in the series, that could have been done here in like 40 or so hours. But this entry goes on to like quite literally 100 hours. And half of that is probably spent in random encounters, getting lost and backtracking through the dungeons, or just being like confused at a particular puzzle. All told, all it really does want you to make say is this thing over yet? Number 4, Lufia and the Fortress of Doom. The first Lufia game will probably always hold a special place in my heart as one of the first RPGs that I ever got back on the SNES. I've always liked it up until about the point that you get Jaren. She helps out a ton in random battles with her bow attacks and group hitting spells, but boy oh boy, the game also kind of does like a nosedive in storytelling as it sends you into Fetch Quest City for no reason. The first time is in the notorious Cave to Aris, where you have to go and examine the bridge, then talk to the architect, and then go over to the other side of the cave to watch him rebuild the damn thing. It takes forever. But that's not even the worst of it, because shortly afterwards, you have to deal with the Illumina Fetch Quest, where you're quite literally sent all across the entire world to find a whole bunch of pieces of Illumina, and it becomes a fetch quest within a fetch quest within a fetch quest. I am not even kidding. Like, for instance, just to get one stupid frickin' piece of the 7 total pieces that you have to get, you have to find this Wizard of Taste, but he wants a purple newt, so you have to go into a cave and get that, just to get the magic flavor and give that to the cook, who then gives it to the king, just to get the piece of Illumina, but wait, no, that's over in the basement. And just for one frickin' piece, the entire end game is dealing with like embedded Russian dolls of Fetch Quest, grabbing all these damn Illuminas. It is beyond obnoxious. Number 5, Tales of Legendia. Like I said before, I love the Tales games. They really are my favorites, right up there with Final Fantasy and Dragon Quest. Maybe though, I'm a tad bit slow, because it wasn't until the PS2 era that I finally made that connection of like, oh, Tales of Phantasia and Destiny 2 and Abyss and Legendia? They're all part of the same series? Wow! Yeah, it kind of blew my little mind at the time, but 1 year before this, I had finished up Tales of the Abyss, and I absolutely adored it. So whenever I saw Legendia in the store and I made that connection, I knew that I had to have it. But these two games were night and day. I had a fun time with it, exploring the legacy, hearing the captivating music and listening to the Orsoran songs. But I fully expected the game to end once I grabbed Mary Sue, Shirley. But it didn't. It just kept going on in what's known as the character quests. And here, all the voice acting is inextricably stripped from the game, and you are forced to go back through every single frickin' dungeon again. And these dungeons aren't exactly the most thrilling things that you've ever seen. Most of them are just long, narrow hallways filled with random encounters, all in complete silence, as there's no voice acting, and all the charm is stripped away. It is quite literally half the game. These character quests aren't some like small addition. They're huge. And while they do give some great character development, having to redo everything in the entire game with no voice acting and no charm either just sucks. Number 6, Rogue Galaxy. This here is a cool concept of a game. It's made by Level 5 and it's absolutely gorgeous, and now that Level 5 is back in business, hopefully we'll get a sequel. And honestly, hopefully they'll learn from their mistakes in the sequel too, but that's neither here nor there. You play as Jaster, a sky pirate roaming the stars to distant planets, grabbing treasure, recruiting allies, and saving the galaxy along the way because, why not? It all starts off great enough with tons of varied places to explore, a pretty gripping storyline, and a fun, fast-paced battle system. But similar to Wild Arms 3, it just overstays its welcome. This is the game that never ends, coupled with dungeons that never end either, and the most egregious sin, there's no save points inside any of these stupid dungeons. You can literally go for hours, I'm saying, without seeing a save point. It seems like right around the halfway point, the game just completely loses its charm that made the first half so fun. All the dungeons just double in size and become filled with copy and paste corridors, and to top it off, the difficulty just jumps up to the nth degree too. Not to mention it has that Tales of Legendia sin, as the second half requires revisiting all of the planets that you already went to in the first half of the game. And the additional dungeons that you have to go through this time, the second time around, aren't fun. They're just long and agonizing. And finally, number 7, Brave the Default. I love a good classic turn-based RPG, especially when it has world maps, towns, dungeons, and, job classes. To me, any RPG with a job class just automatically comes straight to the top of my must-play list, and I absolutely adore this series because of it. It brought in a ton of great quality of life improvements to the genre too. Things like fast forwarding during combat, turning encounters on and off, and being able to take 4 turns in a row were all introduced here. So yeah, it starts off fantastic. But my god, if there was one surefire way to ruin a good time, it's to punish your players by making them do the same things over and over and over again like we just saw. And we're not talking some small backtracking here. You literally have to redo all 4 of the crystal dungeons and beat their bosses 5 whole times. I can understand the developers forcing you to go through them like maybe 1 extra time for storyline purposes, but 5? What in the world? It feels like a total slap in the face and completely ruined the game for me. I beat it once, but I will be damned if I'm ever going to be going through all of that mess again. Thank God they learned their lesson in the subsequent games, and they don't pull that BS anymore, because it single-handedly almost ruined the entire series for me. So that's it for 7 more RPGs that only get worse. What do you think about all my picks? And what games might you pick instead that only get worse? Let me know about any other games that you think start off with a bang, but then crash and hard. And let's all talk and chat about it, because I'm always in the comments too. And if you like what I do on the channel, please head on over to the Patreon to sign up for early access to my videos, as well as behind the scenes photographs. The link to it is over in the video description. And as always, please like, comment, and subscribe, and have a good day.